I probably wouldn't have said those words so many years ago, but I'm saying them now. So please don't hate me for it.
When news broke that Sig Hansen, the legendary captain from Deadliest Catch, nearly walked away from the show that made him famous, fans were stunned. What really happened behind the cameras? Was it the mounting health crises? Or the bitter contract battle with Discovery Channel? Stick with us as we uncover the real reason Sig Hansen almost quit Deadliest Catch, and what it means now. For over 2 decades, Sig Hansen has stood as the undisputed king of Alaska's most dangerous waters. Captain of the FV Northwestern, he's not just another face on Discovery Channel's flagship series. He defined what it meant to survive on the Bering Sea. Since the show's debut in 2005, Hansen transformed from a third-generation Norwegian fisherman into television's most recognizable crab captain. The Northwestern had built an impressive reputation long before cameras arrived. Under Hansen's command, the vessel had never lost a crew member at sea, a remarkable safety record in an industry where death lurked around every corner. His no-nonsense leadership style and fierce loyalty to his crew made him both feared and respected across the fleet. Hansen's journey to television stardom began decades before Discovery's cameras started rolling. Born into a fishing dynasty, he started working on his family's boat at age 14, learning the brutal realities of crab fishing from his father and grandfather, who pioneered Apilio crab fishing in Alaska. By 24, he was running the Northwestern full-time, becoming one of the youngest captains in the fleet. His traditional approach to fishing, relying on instinct, weather maps, and decades of experience rather than modern technology, set him apart from other captains. Hansen's ability to read the sea, combined with his unwavering commitment to safety, turned the Northwestern into one of the most successful boats in the Bering Sea. The vessel consistently topped catch numbers while maintaining its spotless safety record. When Discovery Channel approached him about featuring the Northwestern in a documentary series about crab fishing, Hansen agreed to participate for what he thought would be a single season. He had no idea he was signing up for a television legacy that would span more than 2 decades, but fame came with a price tag Hansen never anticipated. The constant presence of cameras transformed the already dangerous work of crab fishing into something else entirely. A performance where every mistake, every moment of weakness, every family crisis would be broadcast to millions of viewers. The pressure to deliver dramatic moments for television while maintaining the safety and success of his operation created a tension that followed him from Seattle to the Bering Sea. Discovery Channel's demands grew with the show's success. Hansen found himself juggling his responsibilities as a captain with his obligations as a television star. The network pushed for more personal content, more family drama, more behind-the-scenes access to his private life. What started as a documentary about fishing had evolved into something far more invasive. Financial pressures also mounted. While the show made Hansen wealthy by fishing standards, the contracts with Discovery tied his livelihood to the network's whims. The captain who had once controlled his own destiny now found himself bound by television schedules and production demands that didn't always align with the realities of commercial fishing. The Hansen family was paying a price that viewers rarely saw. His wife, June, a private person by nature, struggled with the constant scrutiny that came with being married to a television star. Their adopted daughters, Mandy and Nina, grew up in front of cameras, their childhood moments becoming content for reality television. The line between private family life and public entertainment had all but disappeared. Hansen's own health was deteriorating under the stress. Years of smoking, combined with the physical demands of fishing and the mental pressure of television stardom, were taking their toll. He was living on coffee and cigarettes, pushing his body to limits that would have broken younger men. But he kept going, driven by a sense of duty to his crew, his family, and the legacy of the Northwestern. The captain, who had always been in control, found himself increasingly at the mercy of forces beyond his command. Network executives, production schedules, and health problems that threatened everything he had built. Everything came to a head in September 2010 when Discovery Channel made a decision that would shake the foundations of Deadliest Catch. The network filed a $3 million lawsuit against Captains Jonathan and Andy Hillstrand, alleging that the brothers had failed to complete work on a spin-off series called Hill Stranded. The legal action sent shockwaves through the tight-knit community of Deadliest Catch captains. Hansen watched as his longtime friends and fellow captains were dragged into court by the very network that had made them all famous. The Hillstrand brothers, who had been featured on the show since Season 2, suddenly found themselves facing financial ruin over what they claimed were unreasonable production demands. The lawsuit alleged breach of contract and sought damages that could have destroyed the brothers' fishing operation entirely. For Hansen, this wasn't just about money or contracts. It was about loyalty. The Hillstrand brothers weren't just fellow cast members. They were part of the extended family of captains who had built Deadliest Catch into a cultural phenomenon. Discovery's decision to sue them felt like a betrayal of everything the show was supposed to represent. But that wasn't the whole story. Discovery Channel's public relations machine went into overdrive, framing the lawsuit as a simple breach of contract issue. Network executives painted the Hillstrand brothers as unprofessional performers who had failed to meet their obligations. The narrative suggested that the brothers had taken Discovery's money and then refused to deliver the content they had promised. Behind the scenes, however, a different story was emerging. Sources close to the production suggested that Discovery had made unreasonable demands on the Hillstrand brothers, requiring them to create content that compromised their fishing operations and endangered their crew. The network allegedly wanted more dangerous situations, more personal drama, and more manufactured conflict than the brothers were willing to provide. The real issue wasn't about completing a spin-off series, it was about control. Discovery wanted to own every aspect of the captains' lives, both on and off camera. The network's contracts reportedly gave them unprecedented control over the performers' activities, limiting their ability to make independent business decisions or participate in other projects. Hansen faced an impossible choice. He could continue with Deadliest Catch and watch his friends be destroyed by Discovery's legal machine, or he could take a stand that might end his television career. For a man who had built his reputation on loyalty and integrity, there was really no choice at all. In a joint statement with the Hillstrand brothers, Hansen announced his departure from Deadliest Catch. "We have been through a lot over the past year, and unfortunately, given the current situation with Discovery, we are unable to continue participating in Deadliest Catch," Hansen said. "It has been a fantastic ride, and we wish the best to all of the amazing and supportive Catch fans we have met over the years." Hansen made it clear that his decision was about solidarity, not money. "I want people to know the captains stand together, and me and my brothers support them 100%, he declared. The man who had never backed down from a storm wasn't about to abandon his principles for a television contract. The announcement sent shockwaves through the Discovery Channel. Hansen wasn't just another cast member. He was the face of their most successful series. The Northwestern's departure would leave a hole in Deadliest Catch that would be impossible to fill. Discovery Channel found itself facing a crisis that threatened to destroy their most valuable property. Without Hansen and the Hillstrand brothers, Deadliest Catch would lose 3 of its most popular captains and boats. The show had already been dealing with the tragic death of Captain Phil Harris earlier that year, and losing more key figures could have been fatal to the series. Fans reacted with fury to the news of Hansen's departure. Online forums lit up with criticism of Discovery's handling of the situation. Many viewers threatened to boycott the show if Hansen and the Hillstrand brothers weren't brought back. The network's heavy-handed legal tactics had backfired spectacularly, turning their biggest stars into sympathetic figures and painting Discovery as the villain. The timing couldn't have been worse for Discovery. Filming for Season 7 was scheduled to begin within weeks, and the crab season waited for no one. The network faced the prospect of producing a season of Deadliest Catch without some of its most important cast members, potentially damaging the show's ratings and reputation permanently. And then, everything changed. Behind the scenes, desperate negotiations were taking place. Discovery Channel executives realized they had made a catastrophic error in judgment. The network's aggressive legal strategy had pushed their most valuable assets to the brink of departure, threatening the entire franchise. Lawyers and agents worked around the clock to find a solution that would bring Hansen and the Hillstrand brothers back to the show. The exact details of the settlement remain confidential, but according to reports, Discovery agreed to drop the lawsuit against the Hillstrand brothers as part of a broader agreement that would allow all three captains to return to Deadliest Catch. The network had essentially been forced to back down from its hardline position, acknowledging that the show needed these captains more than they needed Discovery. For Hansen, the brief hiatus had been about more than just supporting his friends. It had been about establishing boundaries with a network that had grown increasingly demanding. The settlement reportedly included provisions that gave the captains more control over their participation in the show and limited Discovery's ability to make unreasonable demands on their time and operations. Many fans assume Hansen's near departure was purely about money or creative differences with the show's producers. The reality was far more complex. Hansen's decision to walk away was fundamentally about loyalty and principle, values that ran deeper than any television contract. He had built his reputation on standing by his crew and his word, and he wasn't about to abandon those principles for the sake of television fame. Some critics suggested that Hansen's departure was a calculated negotiating tactic designed to extract better terms from Discovery. This interpretation misunderstands the character of a man who had always put relationships before profit. Hansen's support for the Hillstrand brothers was genuine, rooted in decades of friendship and mutual respect that predated their television careers. The incident also wasn't about Hansen being difficult or temperamental, as some media outlets suggested. Throughout his years on Deadliest Catch, Hansen had been one of the most professional and reliable cast members. His willingness to walk away demonstrated just how serious the situation had become behind the scenes. Hansen's brief departure from Deadliest Catch became a defining moment that established important precedents for reality television. His willingness to sacrifice his own career to support fellow cast members showed that some principles were more important than fame or money. The incident highlighted the power dynamics between networks and performers, demonstrating that even successful reality stars could be vulnerable to corporate overreach. The confrontation with Discovery also revealed the extent to which Hansen had become the heart and soul of Deadliest Catch. The network's desperate efforts to bring him back proved that he wasn't just another cast member, he was irreplaceable. His Norwegian fishing heritage, his commanding presence in the wheelhouse, and his complex relationship with his crew had become central to the show's identity. The incident strengthened the bonds between the Deadliest Catch captains, creating a sense of solidarity that would endure for years to come. Hansen's leadership during the crisis established him as more than just a successful fisherman. He became an advocate for his fellow performers and a voice for fairness in reality television. The Sig Hansen who returned to Deadliest Catch in 2010 was different from the man who had nearly walked away just weeks earlier. The confrontation with Discovery had given him a new perspective on his role in the show and his relationship with the network. He had learned that his loyalty to friends and principles was more important than any television contract. The incident also marked the beginning of Hansen's evolution from pure fisherman to television personality who understood the business side of entertainment. He became more strategic about his participation in the show, more protective of his family's privacy, and more assertive about maintaining the integrity of the Northwestern's fishing operation. However, the stress of the confrontation, combined with years of smoking and the physical demands of fishing, was taking a toll on Hansen's health that would become apparent in the years to come. The man who had once seemed invincible was beginning to show signs of mortality that would force him to confront even more difficult decisions about his future. Hansen's near departure from Deadliest Catch illuminated broader issues within the reality television industry. The incident highlighted how networks could exploit performers who lacked sophisticated representation or understanding of entertainment contracts. It also demonstrated the importance of solidarity among cast members in an industry where individuals often had little power against corporate interests. The confrontation with Discovery revealed the tension between authentic documentary filmmaking and manufactured entertainment. As Deadliest Catch had evolved from a fishing documentary into a television drama, the network had increasingly prioritized conflict and spectacle over the genuine challenges of commercial fishing. Hansen's principled stand reminded everyone what the show was supposed to be about. The incident also showcased the unique culture of the commercial fishing industry, where loyalty and mutual support were matters of survival, not just business strategy. Hansen's willingness to sacrifice his television career for the Hillstrand brothers reflected values that had been forged in the harsh realities of the Bering Sea, where captains depended on each other for survival. Just when it seemed Hansen had navigated the treacherous waters of television politics, a far more dangerous enemy emerged from within. In March 2016, while filming what would become one of the most dramatic moments in Deadliest Catch history, Hansen suffered a massive heart attack in the wheelhouse of the Northwestern. "It was a strange heart attack," Hansen told reporters. "It wasn't like you see in the movies. I had this really sharp pain, like a knife, right behind my chest plate."
It's right here. It's like a muscle thing. Right here. All empty.
The cameras captured every terrifying moment as Hansen, in characteristic denial, tried to continue working despite the excruciating chest pain.
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
If the chest and left arm isn't good.
I know that.
"I don't understand why it hurts so much right here," he said to the camera, cigarette still in hand, refusing to acknowledge what was happening to him. It was only when the pain became unbearable that he finally accepted medical help, learning later that he had suffered what doctors called a widowmaker, a heart attack that kills most of its victims. The incident forced Hansen to confront his own mortality in a way that no storm or dangerous catch ever had. The man who had spent decades risking his life on the Bering Sea suddenly faced the possibility that his own body might betray him before the ocean ever could. But that wasn't the end of his health struggles. In October 2018, just as the king crab season was about to begin, Hansen faced another life-threatening crisis. October 4th, 2 p.m., and "the day I quit smoking," Hansen would later recall, setting the scene for what became his second brush with death. After a routine dental visit, Hansen took an antibiotic prescribed by his dentist, the same medication he had taken before without incident. Within hours, he was fighting for his life. "My wife and I were driving, and all of a sudden I started turning red. I started choking out. My hands were swelling," he remembered. The severe allergic reaction triggered by the antibiotic led to a second heart attack, proving that sometimes the most routine medical treatments could be the most dangerous. "They said 10 more minutes, I'd be gone," hospital staff told him after using an EpiPen to stop the allergic reaction. The incident was a harsh reminder that Hansen's body was no longer the invincible machine it had once been. Age and decades of hard living had made him vulnerable, in ways he was only beginning to understand. As if his own health battles weren't enough, Hansen faced another devastating blow in 2019 when his wife June received her own frightening diagnosis. "It sounds like my wife has a form of cancer," he told cameras during season 15. "We do know that this area on her neck is cancer. We just don't know if there's more." The timing couldn't have been worse. Hansen was still recovering from his own health crises when the woman who had been his anchor for over 20 years faced her own battle with mortality. The diagnosis forced him to make difficult decisions about fishing operations, choosing to stay closer to shore rather than pursuing better fishing grounds further north. "We're not going anywhere until I know how my wife is," he declared. "She's always been there for me, and I will be there for her." Fortunately, June's cancer was caught early, and according to reports, she has been doing well since her treatment. But the scare served as another reminder of how fragile life could be, even for someone as seemingly indestructible as Sig Hansen. Today, as Hansen enters his 60th year, the accumulation of health scares, family crises, and decades of dangerous work has fundamentally changed his perspective on life and career. "I think about it all the time, and when I do think about retiring, it's only because I've lost so many people, and I'm more fearful every time we go out on the water," he recently admitted to reporters. The fear isn't just about his own safety anymore. It's about the weight of responsibility he carries for his crew, his family, and the legacy of the Northwestern. "I've got 4 grandkids now," Hansen revealed. "I used to laugh at all these old-timers when they'd brag about their grandkids and talk about how that's their whole world. I'm like, you guys are nuts. Can't we talk about fishing?" And now I'm one of those guys. The transformation from fearless young captain to concerned grandfather reflects a natural evolution that many men in dangerous professions eventually face. But for Hansen, the change has been accelerated by the unique pressures of television fame and the constant reminders of mortality that have marked his recent years. The real reason Sig Hansen almost quit Deadliest Catch wasn't about money, creative differences, or even the dangerous conditions that make the show compelling television. It was about something far more fundamental, the principles that define a man when everything else is stripped away. When faced with a choice between personal success and loyalty to friends, Hansen chose loyalty. When confronted with his own mortality, he chose family. When the ocean demanded everything he had to give, he gave it, but always on his own terms. Now, as he contemplates a future that may not include the wheelhouse of the Northwestern, Hansen faces perhaps his greatest challenge yet: learning when to let go of the life that made him who he is. The sea that gave him everything has also taken its toll, and the time may be coming when even the most legendary captain must acknowledge that some battles cannot be won through sheer force of will. But knowing Sig Hansen, he'll face that decision the same way he's faced everything else, with integrity, courage, and an unwavering commitment to the people who matter most. If this story shed light on what really happened behind,
Like that, I don't think he probably had a chance regardless.
the cameras and reminded you why some things matter more than fame or fortune. Consider subscribing so you don't miss the next chapter in the ongoing saga of television's most authentic characters. The sea may be unforgiving, but the stories of those who brave it continue to inspire us all.